Welcome in, everybody, to the third episode of the CSU Global Student Success Podcast. I am your host, Alex, and today I'm delighted to have a special guest with me today, Nicholas, who is our Student Board of Governors representative, and he's going to speak a little bit about his experience with us as a student, as our representative, and just his overall life experience with us. But I'm going to let Nick introduce himself. So can you go ahead and just introduce yourself to our audience? Let them know a little bit about, what you do, outside of school and what brought you to CSU Global in the first place.
Yeah, thanks, Alex. And hello, everyone. My name is Nick Angiocchi. I serve as the CSU Global Student Representative on the Board of Governors, but I also am a double alumnus of the university. So with Global, have been involved with the university for several years. Wrapped up my undergraduate degree back in 2020, #COVID, in HR management in August of 2020. Took some time away. Obviously, work was busy, and then went back and just completed my master's, my MBA in organizational leadership and change management back in early 2025. But as part of that, I applied for and was chosen as the Board of Governors student representative to serve and be a voice for our community. Global is unique within the system because we don't have a brick and mortar university. We don't have a student union where I can, host seminars and bring in guest talkers and things like that. So it's been a struggle to really try and get our community together. We found some unique ways of doing so. We can maybe speak about that later. But outside of my role within the university and being a double alumnus, I am an HR professional at heart. Have been in the space for over 12 years now, and currently working as the Deputy Director of Workplace Policy and Compliance. It's a fancy way of saying HR, but Deputy Director of WPC here with Pueblo County Government, where I've served in this capacity for over 3.5 years. I have a team of 10 that report to me, and we handle really all the legal aspects of human resources for the entire county. So I support all 1,400 employees across all of our departments and our elected offices.
Man, that's incredible. You got a lot going on over there. And I mean, I'm just so thankful that we were able to carve out some time of your already very busy schedule to talk and allow our students to learn a little bit more that, they're not the only ones out there trying to balance this whole thing of work and school. So I loved your little thing about COVID. So let's just take me back there to 2020 and the decision to come to school. Like, what was that moment for you? What made you want to do it? And how did things evolve from there?
Sure. So, I've always been a lifelong learner. And completed my associates when I lived in Ohio. I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, so I lived there for over 30 years before I moved to Colorado now. But I had my associates in HR, and I knew that was only going to get me to a certain point within my career. So I began exploring some online programs because at the time I was a sales recruiter for a local PEO organization in the Cleveland market, and I supported 12 offices nationally. So I was doing a lot of travel at that time and knew that I needed a program that not only was accredited and would allow me to grow professionally, but that I could mix into the already busy lifestyle and work life that I had, being on the road, being a sales recruiter, living life in Cleveland, and stumbled across CSU Global, did some research and loved the accreditations, loved the accolades that the university had specifically around best online programs, best business programs, the support for our veteran community, and decided to enroll. And, within about a short year and a half, wrapped up my graduate degree my undergraduate degree in 2020.
So when you're here as a student with us, you're going through school, and then all of a sudden this opportunity comes around to be the Student Board of Governors representative. What drew you to that, to make you want to even apply for it? Because for our listeners who don't know, it's a pretty rigorous, application process, and also carries a lot of responsibility with it. So can you speak to, not only why you chose to do it, but then what you do in that role and how it's supporting you as a working professional?
Sure. So my why behind wanting to apply for that role is I like to be involved in my community. I'm giving back to my communities, having some impact outside of traditional office and work life. Saw this as a way to bring forth more impact, right? I can be a voice and be a champion for our student voices as a student, but I knew I could do that at a grander level, serving as the student representative on the Board of Governors. So that was kind of my why behind it. I thought that, between my professional life, having experience on a board, I feel being fairly articulate and being able to get my point across. And I saw it as a networking opportunity as well. Like, let's be honest, like in the business world, sometimes it's about who you know and who you
Really?
have been able to
Yeah.
connect with. And the Board of Governors is such a diverse span of professionals. I mean, you've got attorneys, you've got real estate moguls, you've got politicians, you've got education leaders, you've got farmers, generational farmers, all serving as our main board of governors that are the voting members. I'm an ex officio, so not a vote, but I get to partake in several things like executive session. But our voting members are such a diverse group. I was like that. That's a crew that I can learn from. Like that's a crew that I want to be able to connect with on LinkedIn or have their phone number and call them just in a time of need and use them as a sounding board. And I've been able to do that.
I love that. No, I mean, I'm like literally getting goosebumps because it's the academic advisor in me, just in that, like, I tell students all the time, coming to school is really just half of the puzzle, right? Like, we're trying to help you go from pile A to pile B in that interview list, from the application and over. And the way you do that is to extend beyond just your degree and to meet your classmates in your classrooms, engage in those discussion boards with them, get to know your faculty, add them on LinkedIn, add all of us. We're all on there as a university working professionals who are trying to support our students, in the classroom and in the work. So I love that you were able to, not only speak to that, but then to just validate it for our students that we are really here just trying to help everyone achieve their dreams, and get the goals that they want. So you've mentioned a couple times, being the voice of the student, right? For us here at CSU Global. So being that student, it can be challenging. In our last episode, I talked about how it can feel like an 8-week sprint sometimes, getting through classes, plus balancing your work. So when you're doing all of that, how did you manage your time? As a student who's been able to complete multiple degrees with us, what was the best way to balance the work and the classwork and the discussions and all of that?
I think naturally it's a great question, Alex. I think naturally I'm an individual who thrives in chaos. I thrive in fast-paced environments. I don't like complacency. I don't like sitting still. My wife tells me all the time, she's like, "You're go, go, go," but she knows as soon as I sit down at night, I'm done. Like, don't ask me to do anything more. Like, I'm the Energizer Bunny, and as soon as I stop, and then I'm ready to relax. And I think that's what helped me kind of power through not only creating, completing my undergrad and my graduate programs, but having a fairly successful career in human resources on top of being a husband, being a family, being a friend member, being out in the community. I'm big on time management, and I know that's kind of vague to say, but I live and breathe by my calendar. I balance several different inboxes between my CSU Global inbox on Gmail, my personal inbox, my Outlook calendar for work. I have a consulting business as well, so managing that inbox. So I've learned to manage things well in chaos. And you got to find your own system. But I think my biggest piece of advice that I would give to students who are hearing this, who are wondering if they can do this, or who need that vote of confidence to continue down the path, is find your squad, right? I would not be able to, I would not have been able to do this had I not had the support from my wife, from my parents, from my family, from my friends, from even my supervisor here. No, letting them in on your plan and what your goal is going to help them push you, right? Those moments of, oh, I don't want to write that paper, or that moment of procrastination, you're going to have your squad behind you saying, nope, you can do better. We expect better from you. You said this was your goal, and here's where we are pushing you. That's something that I've shared, as the board rep. Again, like you said, Alex, and I mentioned it earlier, it's hard to engage with our students because I don't have a student union building that I can go to and host meet and greets and things like that. So throughout my years as the board rep, I've hosted virtual social happy hours, right? And I have portrayed them in a way of, I want this to be a social event. I don't want it to just be all classroom talk. So I view the social events that I've hosted, the virtual events, very much like that, where I start the event, I bring everybody in, do a warm welcome. You, Dr. Spicer, are there to give some words of encouragement and appreciation from the leadership. But I usually have like a keynote speaker, and then the beauty of Zoom is you can have those breakout rooms. And I envision the breakout rooms as like high top cocktail tables around like an
Mm-hmm.
event space where
Mm-hmm.
students can pop into, right? So instead of walking from one table to another, they can just choose, I'm going to go to breakout room number 2. They're talking about professional networking. I'm going to go to breakout room number 3. They're talking about, I don't know, APA formatting if they really want to talk about that. Whatever it could be, but
Right.
that's been
Yeah.
my way of trying to get the students engaged outside of the classroom, outside of our coursework, to understand what our community is like. And that's the reason why I'm telling that story is that's something that I've shared at every single social event is if you need someone in your corner, if you need someone to push you, if you need someone to be your support system, here's my name, here's my number, here's my LinkedIn. Let me know because naturally I have a competitive edge to me that I want to always win. I want to do its best. And some people don't have that, or some people have it, but they need to hear it from somebody else. So if I can be your voice of reason, if I can be your voice of competitiveness, if I can help push you to that next level, um, reach out and let me know.
That, and thank you for that. And for our students that are listening, please. I mean, I can tell you just that you are sincere by the tone of your voice and the way that we're talking, but that goes to be said for everyone at Global. That's the same for your success counselor. We're here to help motivate you beyond just keeping you in the classes that you need to be registered for. If you need someone that's going to help you break down where you can fit your discussion board into your commute to soccer practice to the boardroom and all the things in between, we are here for that. I will absolutely put Nick's contact information below in the comments for our YouTube video and on our Spotify account for people to be able to reach out to him on his various platforms. But I do want to ask, about that. Our community within CSU Global. We are remote. Everyone is tuning in, hopefully from various places across the world. So
Mhm.
it is a challenge, right? To build that community outside of the virtual events that you have done in the past and will hopefully continue to get to do. What else would you encourage our students to do to try to help build that? How do you cultivate that in our world?
What I would say to that, Alex, is that if you're a student who is in a moment of struggle and you're like, man, the discussion threw me for a loop, or I don't know where to start with this critical thinking assignment, if you're thinking it, 5 of your other colleagues are thinking it. 5 of your other classmates and your cohort members are thinking it. So lead by example. Chart that course, create that path, and be the one to reach out. Take the initiative because without you doing that and saying, I'm going to reach out because I need some help, I guarantee it's going to be received well. I had several of my colleagues that would reach out to me and say, hey, did professor say this in your paper? Like, I'm a little confused by his or her comments or things like that. And it started with the chat feature that's within Canvas itself.
Mm-hmm.
But then it also extended to me saying, here's my cell phone number, here's my LinkedIn, shoot me messages. Like sometimes the instant messaging on LinkedIn, you're going to give me faster. And that's just how it all starts. So that's what I would say is that if you are at a point of struggle or a point of confusion on an assignment in your courses, reach out and say, hey, I'm struggling on this. Are you? And you're going to start to see those familiar faces. Whether you're, especially in undergrad, you're going to go through some of your gen ed courses. And once you get in your specialization for your degree, you're going to probably see some of those familiar faces, familiar names that are kind of, in a way, a cohort, even though we don't have cohorts at Global,
Right.
especially in the master's programs. If you're starting and you're kind of following the courses in sequential order, you're going to be with those same students from start to finish. And that was really cool, actually, seeing a lot of my MBA colleagues at graduation that were, like you said, from all over the country, all over the world,
Right.
coming to Denver to walk across the stage and celebrate our successes together. It'll get easier as you have those familiar faces, but reach out, be the first one to initiate and say, hey, I'm struggling. Would you mind popping on the phone with me? Or, hey, would you mind sharing kind of where your thought process was? Um, Reach out to friends, reach out to professional colleagues, reach out to your supervisor. Especially if you're working in the space in which you're studying, more than likely someone who's at a superior level of you, maybe studied something similar and say, hey, as you know, I'm in class and I'm struggling with this assignment. How would you start it? Like, can you brainstorm this with me real quick? They're going to be part of your crew. They're going to want to see you succeed. So they're not going to say, nope, it's your paper, Alex. Good luck,
Right.
buddy.
Right.
Good luck in that F. They're not going to say that, man. They're going to be like, well, I did my degree 5, 10 years ago, but this is how I would start it, or this is
Right.
where I would start looking at some ideas.
I think that's great advice. Like our curriculum is designed to help you in your work now. So like
Mhm.
if you are struggling and you're not quite sure, what to go with that prompt, look within your own network at work to see if you can pick some brains and learn some new tricks. Cause like that's really what we're just trying to do is to help, you know, you help you grow your network, help you grow your influence at work, and then therefore reach all the goals and dreams that you have. Um, you know, before I let you go, because again, I know you're busy, you're literally taking time out of your actual work day to do this, which I sincerely appreciate. I just would love to hear, looking back, reflecting from that decision back in 2020 to apply to CSU Global to here we are now, goodness, 6 years later, you're the Board of Governors representative, you're twice alumni. you know how do you feel like this experience has changed the outlook of your life now that you have come to CSU Global? Because when we talk to students all the time, it's easy to point to just like we got to get you the degree, but it's not just that. Our goal is to help grow your life beyond the classroom, beyond the degree. So, what has that been like for you as a student and alumnus of CSU Global?
When I look back, and I know this is probably going to sound really cliche, but it's coming from a place of sincerity. When I look back to where I was when I started my undergrad back in 2019, having associates, having a little bit of years of HR under my belt, and seeing where I am now, I would have laughed in your face if you told me that I would be where I am right now. The not only was it the degree programs and the what I learned throughout both programs, but the networking, the friendships, the relationships have really helped catapult me personally, professionally, and academically. Again, being a lifelong learner, I will say maybe I was at an advantage because I was already working in the space in which I was studying. Um, and if you're not, you'll be okay. But if you are, I'm sure I'm going to say something that you're all experiencing. I was able to take what I was learning in my courses and immediately apply it at work. I still refer back to some of the white papers that I wrote of like, wait, there were some theories that I did research on, whether it be leadership theories and things like that I needed to go back and reference. So I still go back and kind of check my own work. But maybe I was at an advantage because I was already working in the HR space and I was learning and deepening my knowledge academically that I could then apply in the workplace. But looking back and seeing my journey all along the way, I wouldn't change it for the world. I would not change it for the world. I spoke earlier that I did my initial research on CSU Global before I started my bachelor's degree, and that same research was repeated before I started my MBA. When I completed my bachelor's back in 2020, Global did not have an MBA program. So when I knew I wanted to go back for my master's, I was toying around with the idea of maybe even a master's in finance because I already had the two HR degrees, both my associates and my undergrad, and I had two nationally recognized certifications under my belt. I'm like, do I need to diversify a little bit to become a more well-rounded business professional? Ultimately, I did well in my finance classes. I knock on wood, I graduated with a 4.0 for my MBA, but I knew I chose the MBA because I did the research on it. I reached out to Dr. Deb and I said, "Hi, I'm Nick," and this was all on LinkedIn, right? So again, social networking. Hi, I'm Nick. I graduated from Global. I see you're the program director for this MBA program. Can we talk? I have questions before I enroll. And within minutes, she's like, "Yep, here's my cell. Like, shoot me a text whenever you're free." And like, just the open arms that I received from Dr. Deb, and the way that I don't want to say sold the program because she didn't sell it to me, passionately talked about the program and the heart that she put into designing it. I sat back after the conversation. I was like, "Yep, I'm home. Like I'm coming back to Global." Some people are like, "Oh, I need to be at this university for my graduate and this university for my undergrad." Why? As long as it's accredited, you're earning a degree that's going to help you grow as a professional. But Dr. Deb really was one of the catalysts to me coming back to Global. And then what I learned throughout networking with professors.
Mhm.
Global is a workforce readiness university. And when we have professors who are teaching the coursework and the subject matters that they are actively professionals in, I remember Dr. Jeremy Agler. was one of my I actually had him for two of my courses throughout my MBA program. He's like a top level senior director VP for Raymond James.
Mhm.
Like he's living and breathing the work that he is translating to us in the classroom, which is huge because not only are you just a research junkie, but like you're actively practicing what you're preaching, which is huge.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. I think, it's one thing to just go to school, like I said, to get the degree, but it's another thing to take that time to really invest into yourself, to understand that these are skills that you're going to be able to directly apply today. Once you finish your discussion board or your critical thinking
Mhm.
assignment, the hope is that you have sharpened a tool in your tool shed that you can now use on Monday morning. So, uh, I love hearing that that worked for you. And I just hope that our listeners know that this is available to everybody and is certainly, our objective at CSU Global is to bring that to everybody. So, whether it's the MBA or not, any and all of our program directors are always willing and happy to speak with our students. So please reach out. Like, it's a broken record at this point on episode 3. If you listen to the others, it's all I'm always saying is, reach out to us. We really do love speaking with our students. Engage with us in the chat here. I'm sure Nick will be able to check back and answer any questions that you guys place there. But like I said, I certainly will include his contact information. And I also want to reiterate the advice he gave. LinkedIn is a great resource for us as a university being remote. Find your classmates on there, interact with one another, start to develop those professional networks and relationships. And I sincerely thank you for all the work you do for our university, for your classmates, for pushing our mission forward every day. Nothing speaks better for us as a university than individuals like yourself, that are just able to say, like, yeah, I'm a product of CSU Global. So thank you for championing that for us. Sincerely, I really do appreciate it. And for everyone listening, be sure to check back for our next episode and like and follow us for more. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one.